I'd rather create something that others criticize than create nothing and criticize others.
If you have high quality product behind the bar, it's like a weapon.
It's not about the figures. It's about who those figures are.
The Hospopreneurs Podcast.
I'm going to drink this beer.
Yeah, let's crack them.
With James Henderson.
Hello and welcome to episode 46 of the Hospopreneurs Podcast. There have been delis and there have been bars, but these guys are innovating by the way they put the two together and moving further up the cheese supply chain. Daniel explains that for Milk the Cow, it's not about cheese and wine, it's about cheese and booze. A little while back, I coincidentally stayed in the building above their St Kilda store and absolutely loved the vibe. So I dug a little deeper. I hope you enjoy their story too. Hello and welcome to the show, Daniel.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
No worries at all, mate. No worries at all. Daniel, you know that I like to ask the first question, what is your crazy hospitality story?
Well, they say if it's that crazy, you shouldn't remember it. But being in hospitality, there's a lot of late nights and things like that. I used to work backstage at the tennis centre in the green room. So a lot of famous people that would have crazy requests. Once Elton John came up to me and said, no matter what I ask for, if I ask for champagne, just give me a Diet Coke. I thought, we are going to have a problem here. So I thought, I know what to do. So he said, can I have champagne, please? I got the staff to walk up to him with a tray of 4 glasses of sparkling and he wanted a can with a straw, 4 cans of Diet Coke. And I thought, well, you just pick what you want then.
Yep.
So that's how I got around that one.
That is very good.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stories in the
we
industry.
should delve into what was Elton John like, and who else have you served being at a place like that?
Beyonce. This is back in 2002, so it was Destiny's Child back then, I think.
Yeah.
And Kylie Minogue, can't even remember now, a few other ones. But Elton John was definitely the biggest diva of all. He didn't even there was competition winners, all the A-class stars of Melbourne, Rove McManus, Shane Warne, Olivia Newton-John. They're all in this room waiting to greet him. And he didn't even come out until 2 minutes before the show, and that's when he said, "Can I have a champagne?" Because he already briefed me an hour earlier. No matter what I asked for, always just give me a Diet Coke. Yes, I think it was like a tip-top bread competition. You got to meet Elton John. So this poor kid that won the prize with his mum got to see Elton John for literally 30 seconds.
Mate, I want to ask you, why do you do what you do?
Wow, it's the only industry I've really been involved in. My parents were both in restaurants when I grew up, and so I was already working in the industry from in my early teens. I was a supervisor of a restaurant by the time I was 17. And then I got involved in hotels, where I did all sort of facets of hotels. Yeah, moved into restaurant management. And then my first business I had was with a business partner I was only 28. In 2002, we opened up a place called The Apartment on Little Bourke Street in Melbourne. And it's really all I know, but I love being in beautiful spaces. I like the feeling of being somewhere and going, this just feels right. You know, the lighting, the music, the service. How do they do this? How do they get it to make me feel so comfortable here that I don't want to leave?
Yes. Being interested in that idea around space, have you looked into architecture or in like interior design or things like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. If I wasn't in this industry, I probably would have gone to TAFE or wherever to learn interior design or something like that. Fabrics, colours, lighting schemes. I'm fascinated by why a person wants to spend more time in a certain space and not in another one. If you go to one cafe and the coffee is fantastic, go to another cafe and the coffee is fantastic as well, but one space feels better to you. And I sort of want to delve into, I like to try to work out why that space feels better to me than another one. And that's what Melbourne does so well now, I think. I think years ago, cafes were quite bland and all looked the same. I think people are really trying to put more emphasis on having people stay there a bit longer, spend that an extra few dollars, and why are they doing it?
So do you think that there's a common denominator that makes a venue better, or does everyone have their own, idiosyncratic things that they love?
I think it's hard to get all the elements right, and that's the problem. That's why you see bars open and close all the time. They might be just the owner, like if he's doing a nightclub and it's just about the music, then he might forget about all the other aesthetics that go along with that. You need more than just, a DJ and laser beams going around and, are the toilets good? Is there enough space in the toilets? Do people have to wait for them? And all these little things are why people sometimes just don't go back somewhere. To get them all right all the time is very difficult. And you've got location on top of that. it just goes on and on. Like it's not an easy business. And now that the margins are even smaller, it's harder to make a buck than ever before. And you need to get, 80% of the elements correct.
So you said getting it right. What does getting it right mean?
Well, it goes back to what I was saying. So you've got to have a good product. You've got to have good marketing. You've got to have good staff, the service, everything has to click. And if you're off by a certain percent, then you're missing out on a market that like I said before, maybe won't come back, or they don't know why they didn't like it. They can't put their finger on what it was. Like I got my drinks and I got my food, but it just lacks something. So getting all those elements correct and doing it is the key to success. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
And on that point there, I want to delve deeper again because in that answer you said that they're good, lighting's good, your staff are good. What does that mean?
Well, I guess it means that you're fastidious about each one of those and you respect each element and you put time and effort to make sure that everyone is correct. You train your staff to make sure they understand your menu and what you're doing, and you want to refresh that. Do you do the same thing to your wallpaper or your lighting or your music? Do you just have the music going that you had 5 years ago and you never change it? Do you change the system? Do you just accept things that are not quite right? Or do you continuously work on the business?
So how do you know when you need to adapt and when you need to just go with your guns?
I think that just becomes down to instinct and experience. I don't know if there's an actual equation to it. I would think that just tweaking constantly is probably a good thing. I would never be as arrogant to think that it was perfect at any one time, and you've never made it. Like even if you're full all the time, that doesn't mean you've made it, because you could be full all the time for a certain amount of time, and then you're not the flavor of the month next year or in 2 months. That constant tweaking, changing small things within the space, I think are very important. And remember, food and beverage is like fashion. The shirt that you wore 5 years ago isn't the shirt you wear now. And food and beverage is the same.
I want to continue with this here about how technology has changed the scene. But before we do that, I just want to open up a little bit of conversation around what you do and tell us a bit about Milk the Cow.
Okay, so Milk the Cow is based on an idea that I had about an experience where I don't think wasn't in the market at that stage. Cheese was known as a cheese plate. You went into a restaurant, at the end of it, there was a cheese plate and it usually cost $25, and there was just a little slither of a few cheeses. And most places had a very, very similar type of cheese plate where it was a softer, hard, and a blue. I thought it would be great to come into somewhere that was like a deli, but a wine bar and a deli mixed in one, but also that experience of like when you go to a cellar door at a winery out in the country where there's someone behind that counter that's passionate about the wines that they're serving and take you through the wines. So you'd walk in and there'd be a big cabinet. We have a 5-meter long cabinet where you can have a chat to the cheesemonger and taste different cheeses, and then there would be a menu based on what that cheesemonger wanted to serve at that time, and then we would match them to all sorts of different styles of alcohol. So we do a 4-flight board, and we have wine, we have cider, we have sparkling, we have cognac, we do a sake flight, we do a whiskey flight, and then we also do hot items. So we do 3 different types of fondue, all cooked again with beer, wine, or cognac. We do a flaming saganaki. It's really exciting. And the thing is that even after 5 years, almost 6 years, I'm still as passionate about it as day one, because there's so much cheese out there and there's so much booze out there, we can never get all the combinations. We have 180 different types of cheese, but there's literally thousands of different types of cheese. It's really exciting. The staff are very passionate about what they do, and I commend them every day because, it's not easy to remember all those cheeses and all those wine. They don't just turn up to work and hand out drinks. They have to know each flight. So there's a lot of training involved. So we do training basically weekly. We used to change the flight weekly, but now with 2 businesses, with the amount of people we have coming in, we change them monthly, and we do the wine flight weekly. But yeah, that's what we do.
Well, you guys are in a really interesting space where you're sort of riding this line between delis and bars. Can you tell us about what really inspired you to be in that particular space? Is it just that your love for booze and cheese, or about that experience? Or
where I was working years ago, I would finish so late that the kitchen was closed, and the guys at this particular venue said, cheese plate. So I'd sit there, have a martini, have the cheese plate. And then I saw one day that the menu changed. I went, oh, fantastic, new cheese. They'll have new cheese because the menu's changed. And they just came out with the same cheese. And I thought there's really not a lot of thought that goes into it with a lot of the chefs at the time. And I was thinking, well, wouldn't it be great to have this thing where there was a 5-meter cabinet, you could walk in, have all the cheese you wanted, and you could pick different cheeses. And my partner, she goes, why don't you do that? That's a great idea. I went, okay. So that's kind of how the idea was born. And the same thing happened another time where I was out in the city. I was with some friends, and I went, I'd love a whiskey and a cheese plate right now. And we couldn't think of anywhere in Melbourne late night, to go that would have that. And so we're open to 1 a.m. basically every day. That's where it stemmed from. That's where the idea came from.
Well, what you just described about being the only place that does what you do. That's exactly what I found when I was down there. And it was amazing to be able to finish my night out and then come home and go, oh, you know what? I'm just going to have some wine and cheese and eat at home now. And you guys did takeaway, and I thought it was incredible. So yeah, I absolutely love what you're doing. How did you find stepping from 1 to 2 venues? Because this is a space that a lot of businesses struggle with. It's almost this chasm that you have to cross when you open a second venue.
Yeah, it was a tough one. I remember when, like I said at the start, I opened that just to think about what I was going to do next. I didn't know that it was going to take off like it was. And a lot of people told me the concept wouldn't work. Some industry people said, Dan, I feel sorry for you. I think you're going to lose a lot of money. No one's going to go in and just eat cheese. You need more than that. And I said, no, if we're going to do it, I want to do it and stick to just cheese. And it worked. It worked, and it shocked me and a lot of other people that it did so well. But we got a few almost email threats like, "Oh, we've been to Milk the Cow. We love what you're doing. Can you tell us who's your cheesemonger and what you do and where you get your takeaway boxes from? And we're going to open up in the north side." And I went, "No, you're not. If there's a market over there and you think it'll work, then I'm going to do it." So basically, pulled all resources together and opened up. It was really, really difficult at the start. As you know, as I was just saying about that training, like finding enough people that were passionate about cheese and would do the research that the staff have to do before they can even do a shift was difficult. Also, Carlton is a 2-story site because we found that our functions were selling out really well. We do a perfect match night. We do chefs at the cow. We do fondue nights, etc. So I needed a space that I could do. We could still operate our normal business, but also run the functions. So we went for a 2-story site in Carlton. And it's worked, but it was very difficult to start. One, capital was, I just opened St Kilda and I was still paying that off. So I had to scrounge to get the money together. Second, spreading out the talent, because Laura Lown, who was our cheesemonger, we had to sponsor her over from England because there was no one really in the Melbourne market that could do what she could do. There was people that knew about cheese and worked in cheese rooms, but, then they weren't hospitality greats either. It was a difficult time.
When people contacted you about opening a site on the north side and sort of exploring those possibilities and even looking like they could be competitors,
mm-hmm.
How did you handle that? Because something that I've found is when people approach me as a potential threat, I try to inspire them behind what I'm doing and get them to join in. So did you get them to join what you were doing, or did you just outright try to beat them to it and do it quickly?
Some of them there were more entrepreneur types that were wanting to get like a syndicate together of people and wanted to open up a cheese place over there. So they weren't going to be ever employees or anything like that. There's one thing I definitely didn't want was partners in the process. So it was more about...
Is there a reason for that?
I just find that the way I work, it's probably better just to do it alone. It was also because it was an idea that I had. I put so much time and effort and work into it. And then at the start, I was going in, knocking the staff off and mopping the floors and closing the venue down. And then by the time it was a success, I thought, well, if I had a partner, they're going to just pretty much come in and take advantage of all that process that I did. So I just tried to do it myself and then have very good managers. And it's worked so far.
Yeah, fantastic. Is that potentially a barrier to scaling?
Maybe.
Possibly. Yeah, that's right. I just like to ask difficult questions like that because, because like as founders, sometimes it can be hard to give away some of the pie. And like that's something that a lot of people struggle with, thinking about, if someone else joined me, am I giving away part of what I've built, or am I making the pie bigger? And so I'm interested in your mentality behind that.
Yeah, look at all. I think Milk the Cow's a little different with other projects and things. I'd be definitely more inclined, but I think it's, you pay your staff well, or you have sort of carrots that they can get to, and then they can be paid more, and maybe CPI increases and things like that you can put in place for them. I think that's probably a better way to go in this particular business for me.
When you hire, do you look for people who are already incredibly passionate about cheese specifically, or is that something that you feel like you inspire people about as part of the process of working for the business?
I think it's a bit of both. They definitely have to have a appreciation for cheese. It's impossible for anyone to walk in and know the 180 different types of cheese. Like, we don't expect that in a second. So it's more about attitude, and then we can teach the rest. If you understand that a customer is important, and you understand that what the industry requires at the moment, then that's why Milk the Cow will employ you.
What is it that you're learning about or exploring at the moment?
I'm really looking into, at the moment, we're looking at land out in the Yarra Valley. We want to produce our own cheese. So I'm trying to educate myself on that process. I mean, I won't be making the cheese myself. I mean, we'll get someone in to do that. But, how to raise and care for the goats and what they need. And that's what I'm really looking at the moment. And I'm also looking at different marketing possibilities. I think I'm fascinated by marketing and why people go places, or what makes them see something on social media and react to it. So we have a very good team. We have a marketing meeting every single Wednesday, and we look at, instead of what avenues do we have? We know you have social media, and you've got print, and you've got this and that, and what other areas, and how can we do it in-house? How can our staff help us with our marketing and making sure all our events are full, and that our weekends and are always chock-a-block, and et cetera, et cetera.
Obviously, marketing is something that I love, and being a podcast in a space that I find I believe hospitality doesn't innovate incredibly well because it's such a direct industry. It's very much in person, and then social media and a lot of interesting technologies have come into play, and they've affected the scene. But I still think that we find it hard to adjust with the systems that are in place, because of the fact that it is such a tangible physical industry, very much people and service oriented, that we find it hard to adjust with these, I suppose, curveball technologies. Obviously, that's something that you guys understand and are looking at. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah, well, I mean, word of mouth was always the old school approach, wasn't it? That just as long as your customer's happy, if they're there, and people always say, oh, what did you do on the weekend? Oh, I went to this great place, Milk the Cow, or I went to this place called Milk the Cow, but it wasn't great. What do you want them to say when they're talking to those 20 people during the week? And that 20 people hear that, and they might tell another.
So what do you think are important avenues for marketing a hospitality business?
I think one now is social media and online presence. Your website just has to be tweaked constantly. It's just the same as what I was saying before about lighting, music, and aesthetics of the room. Your website needs to be current and up to date and work well, and be able to navigate. You're going to think like a customer and go, well, if they wanted a cheese hamper, how can I get them, when they've opened it up, to be able to get to that hamper the quickest possible way, or to see that if they want to buy a voucher, or they want to book in, or they want to ask the question, can they do it from the homepage, and is it accessible and easy to use? And then, is it pleasant to look at? Are the images crisp? Are they clean? What are the images going to be of? And so you just sort of go through that all the time and constantly tweak and check, and as well as people taking photos of the dishes that they're having and then putting them online as well. So you want to make sure each dish looks great and is Instagrammable, that the venue and the cheese display cabinet always looks great, the staff always look good. It goes on and on, because you are getting, you don't know who's going to take the next photo and what it's going to look like, and how many people are going to see that, which is new. That wasn't the way restaurants were years ago.
What about things like, so I'm particularly interested in things that are on the forefront of development in this space, in hospitality marketing, like podcasting, obviously, and things like chatbots, how chatbots can alleviate any stress for reservations or managing these menial tasks that people normally have to deal with. What do you think about those sorts of things, and have you looked into those?
Yeah, look, I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to a little bit of that. I need to get. It's not my skill set. I get a lot of advice from our marketing manager and so forth. But how it's the same with how people pay. Like, there's so many different ways that people can pay now. They can tap on this or do that, or do they get up and do you bring the old FPOS machine over to them? What style of FPOS machine do you have? Do you have ways that they can split bills? It's all technology that is moving so fast. And you pay thousands of dollars for these point of sale systems and how they connect. Yeah, it's all about getting the best possible experience for the customer, whether it's when they're coming in and they're on a wait list and how that wait list is set out. Is it just a piece of paper, or is it online? Are we using an iPad? Are we using technology? Are we going old school? Right up to when they leave and then they pay. But also, did they book online? We're looking at booking online booking software right now. That also can cause other problems because you got to make sure that the parameters that you put, especially at busy periods, work for you and work best for the customer. Nothing worse than you've booked a table and you come there at 8 o'clock and your table's not ready because the people sitting on that table are still there and they're not leaving, and so forth and so forth. Or the no-shows are a big one in the industry at the moment as well.
Yeah, how do you deal with no-shows?
Well, we have a booking system now of you can only book for 6 or more, and it's worked really, really well for us, and the industry does understand it. But you still get people booking for 8 and then don't show, or come 45 minutes late, and then you've given the table away. You've tried to call, and then they say, "Well, we're here now." It just happens. You just need good hosts at the door, good supervisor or management that are running the venue at that time, and we have sort of policies in place and how they handle it and what they say. Then we generally follow it up during the week with our office manager to give them an email. This happened, even if we feel we weren't at fault because they were late and they didn't, answer the phone. We still want to catch up and go, look, would you like to book again? Or if they weren't able to get that table for a certain amount of time and left. But look, that's just what happens, isn't it? Like, that's part of the industry.
Do you follow up with all bookings?
Absolutely.
So what is it about that's really that's made you want to follow up for bookings?
I think it's about a person to person. We want to make sure that you get a phone call or get an email back, you get a response all the time. We have a full-time office manager that handles all our emails, phone calls, text messages. If they've got contacted us via Facebook or Instagram or any social media platform, that we get back to them pretty quickly. It's the same with our service mentality on the floor. It's always the waiter to the customer or to whoever the host is of that group. And we try to do that from booking right through to them leaving. And then with groups or functions, we even do a follow-up with that because we do offsite events. We might do a cheese grazing table in a law firm, and you don't just, pack up the grazing table, leave and don't follow up. So we always like to give them a call. How was everything, and did everyone enjoy it? Is there anything we can do different next time? I think it's just a nice way to run a business.
Yes, it's important there, obviously, that you're maintaining that relationship. The relationship ends not just when the customer leaves the venue. I think that's what's really important about these technologies that do allow for connection outside of the venue, like chatbots and or messenger bots online. And that's what social media does. It allows your patrons to still be patrons outside of the venue, which is really cool.
The online booking system that we're currently looking at will have a follow-up text or email after you've been in to say, I hope you enjoy the evening. Is there anything that any feedback that you have? And I think that's a really nice thing to do.
Absolutely. And the other point on that is exactly what you said there about being feedback. Feedback is it, and having this feedback loop is super, super important because you need to hear constructive feedback or else you can't adapt, and hearing those constructive comments are incredibly important.
Yes, and both ways. Positive reinforcement's great, and it's great for the staff as well so you can acknowledge that waiter that was on and go, there was nothing but praise for you on that night. And there's other ones where it's not a fault to the waiter, but maybe there was things that we could do that's better or help them out to make their job easier, or that they're just missing a couple of little things on the evening that we can tweak and always get better, because you're never done. You never just, that's how we do it and that's that. That's not our philosophy anyway. Our philosophy is we are always trying to come up with different service standards, different menu items, different marketing avenues constantly.
I want to ask you, Daniel, what innovations or innovative techniques have you seen in the industry?
One that comes to mind, just how the industry's changed, especially with the marketing platforms. But I still find it, like, especially with Melbourne, I'll probably say most states do it. There's still the copycat type thing. I remember when, I won't say the name of the restaurant, but the famous Mexican restaurant up at the top end of Collins Street opened. Before that opened, all we had in Melbourne was like Taco Bell. And they opened up, and now, and then you've got all these other Mexican places. Then Sydney did some Mexican places. They're just sort of this sort of, oh, that's a great idea. Why didn't we think of that before? And it's quite strange that still happens. And when the gastro pubs first opened, and now every pub's a gastro pub. And it's sort of, we're finding it the same, even though ours was more, we weren't trying to revolutionize the industry at all, but we definitely came up with a concept that wasn't seen before. And now you've got people doing the ripping off the exact same flight and the board and everything. Most of the time it takes, every now and again, something happens that's a bit different. And then, everyone copies that and moves forward, just like fashion.
Absolutely, just like fashion. It's not such a bad thing seeing that other people are copying you, obviously. It validates.
No, I'm not saying it's a negative. I'm just saying that's how it is. Like, why does one summer everyone's drinking Sauvignon Blanc, for 2 summers in a row, and then all of a sudden it's Pinot Gris? Wine and food is just like fashion. It's just like, it's fashionable to drink Pinot Gris now. So then everyone's doing it.
I look at it like there are leaders and there are followers. So if you're an innovator and you're innovating well, other people are going to copy you. And so that's the nature of, you look at every industry, and in every industry, the people who do it the best and the people who innovate are then copied by everybody else. And so that's why it's hard to be someone who is a leader, because you have to constantly be leveling up. You have to be thinking, what's the next thing? What do people want next? And sometimes and I know that I just said there what people want next. Sometimes being the innovator is the magic in that, is that you actually get to create what people want next.
Absolutely.
So that's what's powerful about it, because if people see you as an innovator and you do something cool, they'll copy you thinking that other people want that thing. And because they've copied you, they want that thing. And remember that anyone who does anything or owns a business is a person as well. Everything's run by people. And if those people want those things, then it's actually generating interest in whatever it is that you're building as an innovator. Being at the forefront of anything, of any development, is a very powerful place to be. And that's cool that and very exciting that you're there and that people are copying you. So that's awesome feedback.
Absolutely. Well, we set that tone with our staff. So we have a management meeting every week and then a marketing meeting at both venues, and we try to get our leaders to come up with different menu ideas, different cocktail ideas, different things that have never been done, and also served in a way that's different. Like our fondue pot, the cage around it, we couldn't work out how to do I didn't want to do shared fondue because some of the tables are too small, then the other ones, the tables are too big. So we just thought we'd do individual pots, but then we didn't know how to keep them warm. So we tried different ways and it didn't really work. And then I remembered when I grew up, there was a chimney that went through the floor and to the second level, and it had a cage around it so you couldn't burn your hands on the chimney pipe. And so we got that and we used that as to hold the pot, because then you can see the flame through it. So there's little things like that. And even our boards, like the reason why they are 15 by 25 is because the table was only 600 by 45. And no cheese board that we found on the shelf could fit on the table. It's funny that, so we made that size, but now we see other people doing it that size, but I don't think they know why they're doing the board that size.
How do you get your staff into a creative space to be thinking about innovative ideas?
I don't even really need to get them into that space anymore. They understand what we want to do and how we want to go about a new cocktail idea or something. And now it's more siphoning through the ideas and saying, no, that doesn't work for that reason. This works for that reason. It's a great position to be in that they're that creative. I mean, Laura Lown, who was a head cheesemonger for the last 5 years, when it came to some of the hot dish ideas, she knew how I wanted to think. It had to be different. It had to have ingredients in it that people will go, wow. And so when we came up with some of the fondues that we have, they were wow. The Grundle legend made with cognac and the type of cheese in there, it's stunning. It's beautiful. And she created that based on knowing what the parameters were when we create a dish. Same with some of our cocktails. We put vodka into cornflakes with some milk, so you get that sort of milky at the end. When you eat cornflakes, you get that milk at the end that people love and they want to drink. So it's a cocktail based around that with a slice of cheese served with it as a garnish. So all our cocktails come with a slice of cheese as a garnish.
That is amazing. That sounds delicious. I'm definitely having one of those next time.
It is.
What's your number one industry resource?
Look, I had some people in my life when I was in the industry that taught me a lot. There was a manager at a restaurant out in Port Melbourne, and she was so harsh on me that I didn't want her to come and talk to me during my shift. So I did everything I could perfectly so she wouldn't have to come and criticize anything. And I thank her to this day for that, because what happens is when someone's riding you like that, You just want to do the job right. And after that, any waiting job I ever got, I did it right because I didn't want the manager to talk to me. All I wanted them to say at the end of the shift was, "Well done, Dan. Well, good night," and that's it. So she was fantastic. Stan Saris, who I worked with for years in Sydney at GPO, he understood space, lighting, music, atmosphere, the feel of a venue was absolutely important. And the head chef at that time, Liam Tomlin, was a master with his food. So between the two of them, it was just a match made in heaven. There's people like that you just learn from because they're so good at what they do. If someone inspires you, stay with that person for a while and learn as much as you can.
So about having a mentor.
Absolutely.
What is a mentor to you?
I guess it's someone that has a demeanor that you can work with and you can respond to well together, and that you have a similar vision, or you like their vision and you kind of want to know, why do they think like that? Is it easy? Because some people just have a gift, obviously, and they don't even know why they think like that.
What's your biggest challenge right now?
Challenge right now is probably keeping the service standards as high as it needs to be constantly. Like I said earlier, the training that Milk the Cow is something that the staff really need to we need to provide, and they need to attend, and they need to be passionate about it, and also constantly keeping it fresh, new, and exciting, not only for the customers but for the staff. We like to have quite a few staff parties per year. We also encourage the staff to have a knockoff drink, get a bit of a family atmosphere created at both venues.
Ultimately, where is it that you want to be?
Now that I know that Milk the Cow is a proven success and people do like the product and we're really proud of it, I think now that we don't want to be just a provider of cheese, we want to be a producer. So we want to start by making that goat's cheese I was talking about and then becoming a producer. If that works and we can make some good cheese, then we might go on and do some others. That's what I'm passionate about right this second, but that changes. The outdoor event market is huge. We're going to be at the tennis this year. We've been at the Spring Racing Carnival for the last 4 or 5 years, I think. The tennis will be great for us in the French Quarter there outside, and we fit that. We're getting a cheese box and sitting on the lawn and watching the tennis. What could be better than that? Anything with grass and people sitting down, we should be there.
Love it. So obviously, because my next question is, what are you doing to achieve that? So are you connecting with events? Is going down an event route the way that you guys are planning to market the business?
It's a combination of wanting to be invited and then also pushing our product in their face. So our takeaway box with the cheese, we've sent that out to those, but they're very interested. Most of them, it's sort of hard. Sometimes they already have contractors in place that they do the cheese and they're not allowed to have another cheese provider. Other ones want to, but they've already locked in for that year. But for the Spring Racing Carnival, for instance, they've never had a food provider on the lawn in the 100 or so years of the Spring Racing Carnival. They've only had the Champagne Bar, whoever was the major sponsor. So right now it's Mum. And so we sit alongside them, and we also sell wine now as well. But, we're very proud of that, and we think that that's we're a good match for some high-end events like that.
Beautiful. The very last question I have for you, Daniel, is what is the next step?
The next step is making our own cheese, and then what we really want to do is our own cheese event. We want to try to have an event that encapsulates what we're about, and we would love that to be opposite where Milk the Cow is right now. We'd like to do a 2-day cheese event with music and a kids section and celebrity, or not, that doesn't have to be celebrity chefs, but chefs cooking with cheese, and a Spanish section, a French section, and then obviously it has to have all the alcohol providers as well, because that's what you do with cheese, isn't it? You either have it with whiskey, you have it with wine, you have it with cider, you have it with whatever you want. But we'd like to show people the different combinations and why tequila and cheese can work, and gin and cheese, and what different cheeses go with what products. And I think it'd be great. So we're looking at having our first one around February, March 2020. That's where we're headed next.
Awesome. Well, it's been fantastic having you on the show today, Daniel. I've really enjoyed having a chat, and looking forward to staying up to date with your journey.
Thank you very much.
Stay in touch with the show after hours at Hospopreneurs on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Creativity and innovation in hospitality. The Hospopreneurs Podcast with James Henderson.
Sound like tomorrow. Sweet as sound. What does tomorrow sound like? Let's show you.